and the band was playing something to do with the twist. And I was trying to copy the big kids doing the twist on the dance floor.
You know, the people who went over there, they had one thing in common: to have fun and to relax, period. That was Catalina. I'd see the people come over in the boat, and they'd be all sophisticated, you know, and wonderful, you know, these little ladies and guys. And the minute they hit that island, inhibitions were out. They would just raise heck. You know, because there was something about being on an island, you know, away from it all. I'd say it was heaven on earth. It was absolutely a paradise.
It's very idyllic. It's very romantic. It's very peaceful. I mean, it really is. It's the only place available to people in Los Angeles to just get away and almost feel like you're on a tropical island somewhere.
26 miles across the sea, Santa Catalina is awaiting for me. Santa Catalina, the island of romance, 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 romance. Water all around it, everywhere. Tropical trees and the salty air. But for me, the thing that's awaiting there, romance. Seems so distant, 26 miles away, resting in the water serene. I'd work for anyone, even the Navy, who would put me to my island dream. 26 miles so near yet far, I swim with just some water wings and my guitar. I could leave the wings, but I'll leave the guitar for romance, romance. Romance, romance.
Catalina was the playground of the stars. It really was. When I say stars, I don't mean just acting stars, writers, directors, producers, executives. Those are all stars in my imagination, and they were all there. It was family night. It was really family night.
I want a little sweetness down in my soul. I could stand some loving, oh, so bad. I feel so funny, I feel so sad. I want a little stain on my clothes. Maybe I can fix things up so they'll go. What's the matter, Daddy? Come on, save my soul.
I remember when my family used to go over there for the summer. And every now and then, Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood's yacht would pull up, and they sort of moored outside the regular harbor. It was a beautiful, beautiful yacht, and we were just like, oh, wow, look at that. And I remember as kids, a couple of us would swim as close as we could get to the yacht to stare at it and see if we could catch a glimpse of them. And it's really funny because years and years later, I worked with Robert Wagner twice as an actor, and the little girl in the water never knew that was going to happen.
Studio executives sent their talent to the island paradise for press photo shoots. Universal Studios, MGM, Paramount Pictures, and Warner Brothers sent film crews to Catalina, which became an epicenter for feature film production.
In the early days, Catalina was like a second unit location. We had the ranch out in the valley, which very few pictures we made didn't go to the ranch for pictures. And Catalina had a very mystique appearance. And when Mr. DeMille, Cecil B. DeMille, came out here to make The Squaw Man in 1913, he stopped off in Yuma, in Flagstaff, about making it there, but it was raining, so he came here. And then he thought, my gosh, you have the snow here, you have the desert here, you have the ocean here, and you have that big island over there if you want to do an island picture.
Daily screenings in the Casino Theater featured a collection of great works like Mutiny on the Bounty, Seahawk, Pirates, Old Ironsides, and Treasure Island. In 1924, for the filming of Paramount Pictures' movie Vanishing American, Legendary writer-director Zane Grey turned heads by importing 14 bison to the island.
We had a big star, Richard Dix, big leading man. And he went over to do The Vanishing American over on the island. And they needed some buffalo. So they took some buffalo over, of course. Now, the island is crowded over there with buffalo.
And Zane did something else, too, for Catalina. There was a kind of a slow period, if you will, in the teens. And Zane wrote a book, Tales of Fishes, that he included a chapter on Avalon the Beautiful. And it did an awful lot to attract people back over to try to fish for the marlin and broadbill swordfish. And he had one particularly beautiful yacht, the Fisherman, that usually sat out, and he had oversized flags. Some of them would be 15 feet long, that would show a broadbill swordfish or marlin, whatever he had caught that day, flying in the harbor. So when he would come in on the smaller launches, he'd go down to the end of the pier. Sometimes there would be hundreds, or even everyone in town that could get down there would get down to see him, because he was at the time probably the largest celebrity in the world. But Winston Churchill has kind of an interesting story. He was not over here a lot, contrary to popular belief. It's just he was so photographed when he did arrive. But he was a defense minister, and in 1929 was able to jump ship. He'd always wanted to come into Catalina and fish with members of the Tuna Club. And it was an arrangement that was made for him to fish on a local boat. And it was a Sunbeam, Monty Foster's old Sunbeam. They went out just beyond the jetty, and he hooked a marlin, had him in about 15 minutes, and he came back into the bait box. It's a little bar in here. And he lit up a cigar and had a glass of gin, and he said, "I see why you chaps like this. This is very fun, a very, very enjoyable place to be." But there were other people in the room that had been trying for years to get their button, and so they say that Churchill was just sort of blessed with that kind of luck.
By the 1930s, William Wrigley Jr.'s plan to promote Catalina as a tourist mecca was in full swing.
Everything about Catalina, it was absolutely first class. That casino and everything about it. You know, Duke was the head lifeguard there. Immediately when I went over there, because I'd been winning physique contests and all this, and because, you know, a lot of people knew me and Duke, and I idolized what I was doing, and I became his buddy. And he would fix me up with all the choice girls on the island there, you know, and for dates, and so it was wonderful.
Adding to the allure of the so-called Romance Island was the Catalina Swimsuit Company, formed by Leighton Noble, featuring 80 swimwear models.
The Flamingo, and how do you do? On California's Catalina Island, the bathing suit fashions feature the Flamingo, wonderful bird. The latest of styles for the beach. She can wear it like that, or she can wear it like that. Have no illusions, men, she wears it. The Angelfish, featured in seaside styles with plenty of zip and plenty of zipper. Don't worry, honey, it hasn't slipped yet. In these days of styles that must be glued on, who cares about shoulder straps? Skidoo.
Contests also became regular draws for the island.
Deep Sea Slapboard Marathon. It's the Grand National Water Ski Race from Long Beach, California to Catalina Island and back. A 60-mile round trip over heavy offshore seas and a rugged test for the boys on the bouncing balsam stage.
The biggest event occurred in January 1927 with the Wrigley Ocean Marathon. Swimmers covered with grease and lard swam cross-channel. The winner, Canadian George Young, received $25,000. Escaping the Hollywood rat race, visitors congregated at the Catalina Country Club, playing tennis and golf. world-famous golfer Bobby Jones held the annual Bobby Jones Golf Tournament and was frequently seen walking the fairways of Catalina. Beginning in 1921, William Wrigley Jr.'s Chicago Cubs enjoyed spring training amidst the island's splendor. The baseball stadium was constructed adjacent to the golf course. For the next 30 years, the Chicago Cubs made Catalina their second home.
Catalina had played a very important part in Ronald Reagan's life. Ronald Reagan was a sportscaster, and he was covering the Chicago Cubs. And they had spring training at Catalina. Now, Wrigley owned the Cubs. Wrigley owned, at that time, the Catalina. So he had the team there, and he brought the radio group out to cover a game, and Ronald Reagan was in the radio group, and he was one of the announcers. So he came to town. There was a young actress in town, Gail Hodges, that knew Ronnie in college, and she was under contract at Warner's. And she told her agent, there's a young fellow from my hometown coming here. He was very handsome, he'd make a great movie star. So the agent grabbed him when he came through town on his way to Catalina, rushed him out to Warner Brothers, and they threw him in front of a camera and just said, talk. And 2 days later, he got a call from Warner Brothers offering him a contract, and he came out. So when Jimmy Cagney introduced me at lunch, he hadn't done a picture at that time. He was just a contract actor waiting to have something done. If Ronnie hadn't come out to cover spring training, we wouldn't maybe not have had Ronald Reagan, governor of California, for 2 terms. We might not have had Ronald Reagan president of the United States for 2 terms. He had not been coming out to Catalina to cover the Cubs.
Catalina Island continued to prosper during the golden age of entertainment. But with the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, the bright lights of Catalina were blacked out. Strategically positioned, United States government officials closed the island to tourism and stationed military planes, warships, and troops to defend the Pacific region from possible invasion. Despite the war, Catalina continued its entertainment sizzle. Top acts such as Alice Faye, Kate Smith, Spike Jones and the City Slickers, Danny Kaye, Earl Carroll, Johnny Mercer, and Bob Hope all entertained U.S. troops stationed in Avalon.
People will say we're in love.
Coincidentally, Norma Jean Baker, soon to become Marilyn Monroe, lived on the island with her first husband, James Dougherty, who trained in the U.S. Maritime Service and received his first assignment in Avalon. Many nights, locals saw Norma Jean near the aviary birdcage or strolling with her husband by the water of Descanso Beach. After the war, Catalina's tourism continued to prosper with the expansion in air travel. P.K. Wrigley moved the landing strip from Hamilton Cove up to the airport in the sky, a more strategic location in the interior of the island. United Airlines provided the first commercial airline service to the new airport. Like all great empires, Catalina also experienced a fall. Tourism decreased, due in large part to the availability of air travel to more exotic locations.
Another thing that happens in the aftermath of World War II that's very important in the tourist economy is the development of commercial airline traffic. So now, instead of getting on a boat and taking a 2-hour boat ride to Catalina, a family who could afford it could get on an airplane and fly to someplace very exotic like Hawaii or Paris or Mexico. And it was much more appealing for those that could afford it than simply taking a vacation to Catalina Island.
In 1951, the Santa Catalina Island Company, faced with economic hardship, decommissioned the SS Avalon.
Then, I don't know really what happened. I think a couple generations down, you know, people stopped paying attention. The casino kind of fell into disrepair a bit. Someone had their hands on it in terms of a lease who wasn't really doing much with it. And the Cubs weren't coming anymore. The big band stopped coming.
From an Islanders' point of view, I think it completely changed the feeling of Avalon. The writing was on the wall. People weren't excited about coming over here anymore. A lot of us looked at it as the end of an era, and we really didn't know what the new era was going to be.
The SS Catalina still ran for another 30 years, but in September 1975, with another inflationary trend, the SS Catalina made its last run.
It's indescribable. It's a little easier now leaving on the helicopter. But leaving on the steamer and seeing it slowly fade away is just heartbreaking.
You're at the edge of a human tide here, and it hasn't gobbled up the island. And it's due to a few people with foresight who, after they owned the island, the Wrigley family said, we need to protect this place, because if we don't protect it, it's going to become another resort like everywhere else. And then they did the right thing, and with Nature Conservancy now we can restore the island, we can put it as much back in its original state as possible.
These huge kelp forests that went 25, 35 feet up, and they're a brown amber color, and when the light would go through it, it was like amber gold, and they used to wave in the currents of the water like this. So I'd be swimming, and all of a sudden it would go like this, and it was like a pathway that opened up, and you thought, sure, if you swam through there, you were going to find a treasure chest at the end or something.
Skin diving in Catalina, or snorkeling, or scuba diving, to me, it's the best anywhere. I mean, I haven't, obviously, skin dived all over the world, but I've been in Japan, I've been in Hawaii, obviously, I've been in Mexico, the Caribbean, and Catalina, to me, is the most beautiful place to be in the water. I mean, you can see 100 feet on a clear day down. The iodine kelp, which floats up from the bottom, it's usually grounded about 30, 40 feet down. Once you get down inside of that, it's like a completely different world. It has a completely different sound, has a completely different light ambience, and the fish, it's filled with fish.
In 1933, as a tribute to his father's love of Catalina, P.K. Wrigley constructed the Mausoleum Tower, standing 80 feet high. The Wrigley Monument is home to the Botanical Gardens, where 9 species of indigenous plants thrive that are found nowhere else on the planet.
I can challenge you to find another island like this in the world. There is no other place where you have a large community and a protected island right offshore.
Names were made to be remembered, like the stars up in the sky, like the ravens in the valley. We were made to fly. We made our friends along the highway.
Basically, it was his father, of course, that had the dream. PK's main contribution was to carry out many of his father's plans that his father never lived long enough to see realized. One of them was to change the whole look of Avalon, and it was because of P.K. Wrigley and Otis Shepard that we were able to get the town looking the way it does now, with all of the fountains, with the serpentine wall, all of the Catalina tile, and of course the greatest contribution was for P.K. to guarantee that the island that his father loved so much was going to stay, at least 88% of it, pristine to the way that his father first saw it in 1919. It will be staying that way because of the Santa Catalina Island Conservancy that was established by P.K. Wrigley in 1973.
Bring me my bowl burning gold. Bring me my chariot of fire. I can see the clouds on
fire. We redid the Chimes Tower roof, which is all multiple colored Catalina tile colors. We did the Via Casino building, which was a donation to the island, somewhat to convince the city council to rebuild the building after it had been washed out to sea. We did a major restoration project up at the Wrigley Memorial, up in the Botanical Garden. It really forced us to get right down to the nitty-gritty of matching the tiles, because the old tiles are right next to the new tiles in the same wall. There was 750 decorative pieces that were actually chipped out of the wall and replaced with new tile.
This is one of the series of murals that we did for this wall. This one is a street scene that's still similar as it is today. The mariachis, the photographers, it has all the elements of people's memories of Catalina and the downtown Avalon area.
When I walked in 1987 and asked for permission to do the Jazz Festival, I walked in the ballroom and I knew. I mean, it was just a beautiful room. I didn't know its history. I just knew that the island had this enchantment and the ballroom was just boom. Then all of a sudden you realize that you are doing the same thing that they did in those days. The room is basically the same as it was back in the 30s and 40s. It's been remodeled, but then it's been remodeled to look like it did in the 30s and 40s. We're kind of doing worldwide now, and especially nationally and internationally, what William Wrigley had in mind the whole time.
We're tapping into that legacy that's there on the island of entertainment, and we're just trying to present the modern version of what happened through the decades on that island. It's a very high watermark to hit. In its golden era of big bands, the casino presented the biggest names in the industry, bands like Les Brown and his Band of Renown. To achieve that, we have to get the equal bands of today, the biggest names and most influential artists today. And if we don't hit that, then we're not doing the festival justice, and we're not doing the island justice, because the island has come back so strong with entertainment. And I think Fender's a big part of that. I would say our festival is a major part of that.
Love you, baby, now you know I can't be the one to be your man. Love you, mama, now you know I do anything in the world for you to have loving from my baby's eye. To see the loving in my baby's eye. To see the loving in my baby's eye. See the loving.
I mean, we had Taj Mahal walking around the whole weekend, sitting on park benches, talking to fans, you know, on the street. I mean, where would you see Taj Mahal sitting on the street talking to fans? On the Catalina, the special thing is we break down the barrier.
It's a magic place. And it's not just the terrain, and it's not just the mountains, and it's not just the blue ocean. There's the people, too. It is the magic place.
It never changes, really, I don't think, for those of us who were born there. You know, you're an islander. And I don't care where you live. I don't care how long you've been gone. You're an islander.
Boy, that was crazy. Unbelievable. It brings back a part of my life that was unbelievable. And it's ringing, it's just ringing.
also remember once being in the water there and thinking to myself, this is who I am. This is what I really love. This is what I really live to do, is go on this water in the ocean. Everything else is what I do, but this is really who I am.
It's just a very special place. It's one of the most unique places you're going to find anywhere, especially in Southern California. And it's a place where I was born, and it's a place where I want to die.
Catalina has again risen to glory as America's island, a glamorous destination for romance, nostalgia, history, and inspiration for all who visit and set foot on the Magic Isle.
Catalina is so many things that to boil it down to a very simple picture, I would say it's a place of rejuvenation. It's a place of peace. It's a place of introspection. And you come out of it, if you want to, a better person, a stronger person, somebody who can make a difference, can understand the importance of nature in our lives.
Barrel of a loaded gun for just one day.